What is happening, people?
Yeah.
How you living? How you feeling? Hopefully you are having a fantastic day.
I know you're having a fantastic day.
Tomorrow is Good Friday. Got Easter this weekend. Hopefully you're with your family, you're with your friends.
Go to church.
And you're able
you
to have a good time with the people that are important in your life. We appreciate you. And thanks for joining us tonight. Do us a favor, as the stream starts, hit that like button. Simple way for you to help support the show. We see you in the chat. Gus says we're here. What's up, Kenny? Welcome in. Philly Snipe says, hey.
How we feeling?
How y'all doing?
How you doing?
Gus says, look at the hair flowing, man.
Oh man, I needed to wash the hair, boys. It was getting out of control. I literally was in the shower for like 45 minutes, freaking combing this bad boy. If you probably see, my eyes are still red from like the soap and shit. I was in there.
What kind of soap are you putting in your eyes?
It's not soap. It's more conditioner. The conditioner like was getting in my eyes because I try to like. Anyways,
that seems like a lot of effort.
It is. It's actually exhausting. Like I said, I woke up and I went straight into the shower, and I immediately came here.
I can see it. Yeah, you can see that like just out of the shower look.
Yeah, 1000%.
What is up, Justin, Big Papa, Badaki? What's up, Scribbles? Hola, amigos.
Mi gente.
We appreciate y'all. Hey, on today's stream, the entire point of today's stream is to review some of your Dynasty football teams and to give you advice on what to do moving forward. If you're watching this either live or later on replay, just want to quickly let you know before we dive in, if you want your team reviewed, it's very simple. All you need to do is two things. Number one, use the code LAND. Number two, sign up to become a Mother Flocker member. And that is on the Flock Fantasy website. You can see a list of everything you unlock here when you decide to support myself and Badaki financially in our goals to do this, for our family long term. You get a 2024 rookie report, a live team review like we're about to do tonight for some of these guys, unlimited access to our trade calculator, personalized DM, complete rankings, trades review show that you get to be a part of. You unlock our entire Discord, and obviously you're supporting the channel, you're supporting us, and our goal to be sufficient enough for our family, I guess, if that makes sense. But
yeah,
when you are signing up, a couple things I'll just quickly say. First thing is I would advise using the instant access button, only because if you don't, it's fine, but you just have to wait for your trial to end in order for you to be eligible for a team review. But once you do sign up, go to the top right, click account, then you will link your Discord. And once your Discord is linked, you should see all of our premium channels that only premium users get, including the roster submissions tab. And you can see here, MightyBouch is the first team that we are reviewing today. Big shout out to MightyBouch. Been a supporter for a long time now. And
an OG.
Just always an encourager to the visions of Dynastyland, the goals of Dynastyland and the future of where we want to be. So
no question.
We appreciate her big time.
You. Yeah, thank you so much.
So we are going to have a look at her team and hopefully give some direction and some guidance on what she could do moving forward to help improve her team or what direction she might need to go. So we appreciate y'all. Thanks for being in here. Again, hit that like button. Landon says we are his favorite streamers. Wow.
Hey.
I mean, that's
my favorite. My favorite is a favorite stream. Favorite stream.
Favorite stream. I would assume that also means streamers.
Yeah. Either way, we appreciate you.
We appreciate
you, Lando.
All right, let's look at her team here. Break down the context for us.
Yeah, 12-team SuperFlex start 9 half PPR 4-point passing touchdowns. Traded 108 for Nico Collins, which I'm pretty sure we just reviewed and saw.
Yeah, we talked about that in a video coming out soon.
In the video, absolutely. So definitely check that out. Traded the 108 for Nico Collins. Have been shopping Deshaun without much except one offer for Daniel Jones, Eckler, Schultz, Zamir White for Watson. I don't want that.
And
Watson.
You also had to give up Trey McBride, by the way. We wouldn't even do that for Watson, would we?
Yeah, so that tells you where the market is. I have 224 first and my 112, which I have via trade. I painted myself into a house money team. How do I make myself better? She says. All right.
2 firsts and 25 is great, especially if you're competing. The 112 tells me you won the championship. Is that right?
I'm assuming.
Team name, we...
No, she said via trade. She got the 112 via trade.
She says my 112, though. So when she says my 112, I assume that means
she got it back.
Her pick. We don't know her team name, though. It's probably MightyBouch.
Our team name is, I looked it up. It's Team 2. It's Michigan Knee Biters.
Okay.
Shout out to the Michigan Knee Biters.
She also has Nico Collins, so that team has Nico Collins, yeah. All right, cool.
Collins,
so
Josh Allen, and the whole shebang.
12-team SuperFlex starting 9. In case we need to revisit that, I'll put that in the chat there.
Yeah. So I'll start breaking it down. How can she make her team better? She's asking here. Josh Allen, Deshaun Watson, Will Levis, I think are 3 decent starting quarterbacks here. I actually just brought out a video saying under the radar type of players, and Deshaun Watson was on that list, putting all the off the field issues aside. You know, you take the first 3 games of the season, he actually looks pretty decent. Now, he did struggle with some injuries, so I'm not necessarily saying that Deshaun Watson is the answer, just saying there could be some upside coming into this year, especially with Deshaun Watson and Will Levis. But there's definitely moves that we could potentially make to get a better quarterback rather than these two. But I actually don't mind this quarterback
I think
group.
This is enough for me to hold pat with Josh Allen, obviously the best quarterback in fantasy right now. And then Watson and Levis between those two. You just need someone to figure it out and someone for bye week. So I feel pretty good about that combo there between Watson and Levis. Levis is a really fun wild card. I think he's one of my favorite quarterback 3s right now in Dynasty.
Yeah, 100%. I think the upside could potentially be there with a new offensive coordinator, some new weapons, maybe all that the whole new regime coming in for him. At the running back position, it looks like you only have Bijan Robinson, but you do have Keaton Mitchell, Jerome Ford, Big O Roscoe, Damian Pierce, and the list goes on here.
Can I ask a question? Why is Keaton Mitchell ahead of Jerome Ford and Rashawn Johnson in like keep trade cut? Is that how that's how I'm reading it here? Because that's typically the way that they. Am I going crazy? So they have Keaton Mitchell
higher than Jerome.
Why?
Why would they have that?
I guess because he'll be like the Tajay Spears to Derrick Henry in Tennessee, maybe. He is young, but undrafted free agent coming off a torn ACL late into the season. He won't be ready to go week 1 anyway. That's really interesting that they have him ranked so high. But anyway.
Yeah. And then Roscoe here. So look, the running back room is not the strongest, but I think you might be in a prime position here, depending on what we say. That 112 could be a running back, depending on the draft capital. You know, if Benson goes in the second round, can he fall to the 112? Jonathan Brooks falls to a good landing spot. Can he go at the 112 here? But I would say, I'm not saying this is your weakest room. How many wide receivers can she start? 9?
Well, we don't have a screenshot of her team, but it is a start 9. So I imagine
it's 2 quarterbacks, 2 running backs, 2 wide receivers, a tight end, and a flex. So up to 3 wide receivers, I'm assuming.
No, that wouldn't. That math wouldn't check out.
Missing 1 more actually, so two flex.
Yeah, I think so. Sorry, so you said 2 quarterback, 2 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end. That's 2, 4, 6, 7, 8, 9. Yeah, so 2 flex.
Yeah, so 2 flex.
That's probably what we're looking at right there.
Right. Okay.
2,
so
4,
looking
6,
at
7, 9. Yeah.
Okay, looking at the wide receiver position here, maybe this is where you could potentially be getting somebody, depending on how you feel. Nico Collins, Devonta Smith, Deontay Johnson, Quentin Johnson, and Elijah Moore and Trey Palmer here.
Yeah.
Having the ability to start up to 5 wide receivers, Nico Collins feels like the most secure wide receiver on this team. I would throw Devonta Smith in there, but there is some question marks, as you can see, people that I am panicking on. Devonta Smith, where is that production going to be coming from now that Saquon Barkley is there? I think he can find himself a role, but there's a lot of mouths to feed in that offense. And is there going to be more inconsistencies than consistencies with Devonta Smith there? Deontay Johnson, we both see that differently. But in this format, I think he is somebody of value for your team. And Quentin Johnston, we'll see what happens. Now, no one you can rely on, unfortunately, here. So I would say
I love Deontay.
She has to get another wide receiver.
I love Deontay for this team. I think he's going to have a huge year. I don't think people realize how big of a year he's going to have. Trey McBride, Dalton Kincaid, that gives us some wiggle room. Because instantly when I see a team like this start 9, it's not too big of a starting lineup. We have some stars at the top. I'm instantly thinking, all right, we can compete, but we're not there yet. A Kincaid, a McBride, that combo gives us some wiggle room. The draft pick gives us some wiggle room. And maybe Bijan a pivot down. I know we don't want to, but that might also give us some wiggle room. But she has a good amount of draft capital, just not the type of picks we really want in this class. So I'm just trying to look at what we actually have actionable moves this offseason.
It's really just 2 picks unless we tell her to move one of the 25 first to get in.
2 seconds in 25. And 2 firsts in 25, but at the moment we really only have
2 picks in this draft.
Yeah, the 112 and the 406, which we can draft some. Well, we can draft a good player at the 112, but we will be limited in how we will be able to improve this team. It's like I mentioned yesterday. On yesterday's stream, we had a team where not a lot of draft capital, but a lot of good players that we could kind of pivot off of. I think Bijan Robinson is like the first name that I would say is the guy I would look to pivot off of. Okay. Not that I want to, right?
Right.
But because I think we almost have to. I know you mentioned at the 112 we could potentially get like a Brooks or a Benson Badaki. My issue is even if we do that, we still need only a wide receiver. Nico Smith and Deontay.
Yeah, I agree.
So it's just a really, really tough situation. But let's start thinking of some Bijan pivots, because there are plenty of names that we would be comfortable with keeping. So let's try and find some of those names. Gibbs and Taylor. I don't know that this team is going to feel a huge need to pivot because he already has Gibbs and Taylor. But, like, if you can do, like, a Gibbs or a JT and a Higgins, does that interest you? Or a Waddle? So, like, some combination of Gibbs / Jonathan Taylor plus Waddle / Higgins. And I think we'd have to offer up a sacrifice. Maybe that sacrifice is QJ. To at least start the conversation, but I think you might actually have to offer more than that. I think
on QJ for Gibbs and Jonathan Taylor. Yeah, I mean, and to get another or Jonathan. Yeah,
a 25-second maybe. A 25-second might get you in the door at least to start a conversation.
Yep. Yeah, I'm just looking through some teams here.
But that's not a natural pivot because
how far down are you willing to go? That's a question.
I don't want to go down too far.
I'm just trying to find some teams here that I might be.
I'm willing to go down, but I need to know that I'm getting a superstar wide receiver in return. That's what's tough.
Would you do like a Josh Jacobs or a Tyreek Hill, something like that?
I don't want to go the Tyreek route, but like, what about the guy who has Amon-Ra? Because he's got 3 running backs that we could get our hands on. I don't know what sort of combination of those guys we could get. What if it was just Amon-Ra, St. Brown, and James Conner? How would you feel about that? Because I don't think you're going to get a Kenneth Walker or a Devon Achane in that deal.
Yeah, I would agree. Like, I think it has to be. That's what I'm saying. Like, how far are you willing to go? It has to go really far down.
But I would be willing to like do a. What about something like this? Devon Achane, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devon Achane for Bijan plus 2 seconds, like as your starting offer. Get your foot in the door.
2025. Yeah. Get your foot in the door. Yeah, I think I would rather pivot further down at the running back position and get a wide receiver than trying to like pivot down a couple spots.
So who are you wanting to pivot to?
Well, I think Josh Jacobs might be. I don't know. Is Josh Jacobs too much?
Oh, well, what's the wide receiver we're getting in return?
Well, it would be Tyreek Hill, even like a Deebo Samuel. I think in a win now perspective, I think that would be interesting. But at the same time, like I feel like both of those wide receivers, if I were to say, sorry, if it was Deebo Samuel and Josh Jacobs specifically, I feel like that's too far down on both sides.
Yeah, I agree.
Right. I feel like it has to either be Tyreek Hill and Josh Jacobs to keep. I mean, or even Joe Mixon. I think you get Tyreek Hill.
Okay.
Just depending on how much they value Tyreek Hill, because in the community, Tyreek Hill is still up there for some of these people.
What about Bijan for Josh Jacobs? And I'm trying to get the 108 somehow as well.
She's trying to get back her 108?
I don't know if it's hers, but the team has that player is what I'm saying.
I remember she said she traded away the 108.
What about Bijan for Josh Jacobs, Christian Kirk, and the 108?
Yeah, I like that as well. Getting that 108 and getting that wide receiver there.
Jacobs, the 108, and Kirk.
Would you do a Drake London and a Pacheco?
I thought about that. That just feels too far down. I don't know. That feels a little too far down.
What if? Right. I'm just thinking. I just don't. I can't. There's no add-on that she can do or they can do, which is going to be even.
I like this Jacobs trade a little bit more if this is Travis Etienne actually. But then you're getting Kirk and Etienne. But look, I think this is fine because you get Jacobs still. He's a good starting running back. Kirk is going to help. Now you actually have a legit flex option. And you've got the 108 now to also add to your team, whether that's running back or wide receiver.
Yeah, 108, by the way. Brian Thomas Jr., another quarterback. Brock Bowers sometimes falls to the 108, depending on your league, which is probably really rare. We've seen Roma Duzane fall to the 108. I think it really is going to depend on these quarterbacks. Where's JJ going to go? What is it? JJ and Bo Nix. We've seen Bo Nix go in the first in mocks. So obviously there's a lot to lean on there. But that 108 is still extremely valuable.
Yeah. Another route that we could take, because I'm going to be honest, like a Bijan trade looks a little difficult right now in this league. There just doesn't look like a natural. Although I will say I would do like a Chase Henry as well. Right? Maybe you have to add a second. I like that. I like that idea there.
Right.
And again, friendly reminder, anyone who doesn't watch these streams, the point of these streams aren't to tell you that all these trades are going to happen. It's to give you inspiration, to start a conversation. I guarantee you 99% of the time we do a stream and we give ideas, these won't be the finished products that are actually end up being like the trades that happen. The other idea is we can keep Bijan and shop the 2025 firsts. My issue with this in the past, and it's still how I feel now, is that those firsts are massively undervalued. So that is tough. But can you send like a 2025 first? I wonder in our community rankings, SuperFlex, I want to see where those first start to come into play. Those early to mid at minimum, so we can know. So your DJ Moores of the world, your Travis Etienne's, your Kyrens. That is interesting. Like if I knew I could get a Kyren Williams for one of my firsts, I think I would do that at this point. How about you? Because that fixes really the big hole on my roster.
Yeah, I think I would still want to be leaning the wide receiver position and still have a lower tier running back. Like, can I send one of these seconds for someone, because she's in reality, she's like, one or two pieces away from competing. Can I send that second for Derrick Henry? Can I send that second for one of these lower tier running backs that you can get? I'm not sending a second for James Conner, but can I send a third for James Conner? Can I get a Joe Mixon for a second? I think I'm willing to go that route. and use my 25 first on a wide receiver, like, yeah, if I can get DJ Moore for my 25 first right now, I'll do that in this scenario, and then send one of my 25 seconds to get a lower tier running back. You get what I'm saying? But yes, I do. I don't mind Kyren. I think I would rather go towards the wide receiver route as a whole, right? I'm not saying it's a bad trade, just saying let's get the lower tier running back as our RB2 and get that elite wide receiver that's going to really fill up the hole in the wide receiver, in that wide receiver room.
I always love a Rashee Rice trade. I wonder who has Rashee Rice in your league. I wonder what we could wiggle around with that owner.
Trying to find him right now. Rashee Rice, team 11.
Team 11.
Chris Olave,
Chris Olave, George Pickens. Yeah, I wonder if we can. I want to get my hands on like Eckler Rice, or like Singletary Rice or Hubbard Rice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, I don't mind that.
I want to get a Rice plus a Eckler, Singletary. What else? What was the other name I said? Hubbard.
Hubbard. So I think I'll do more Eckler, Singletary, but yeah, like 100% within that realm.
I wonder what Keep Trade Cut would say about this. Let's just say it's a mid first. Rice, and we also like. What's the cheapest of these names? Is it Hubbard? He's 39.
Most likely be Hubbard.
What's Singletary? Singletary's 41. What is the other option we were talking about? Eckler. So they're all like relatively right beside each other, but 2025. Let's say we offered a second as well. Ooh, I kind of like that. A 2025 first plus a second. Can we at least start the conversation around a Rashee Rice, Eckler, Singletary, or Hubbard? If you get that deal done, you still have a first and a second next year, but your roster is starting to really fill out. You're no longer relying on Keaton Mitchell being your RB2. You've got a lot more wild cards, if you will, as your RB2 spot. Ford, Rashawn, if he actually develops. We also talked about Singletary, Eckler, whoever it is there. You add Rashee Rice to a wide receiver room that has Nico Collins, Devonta Smith, Deontay Johnson. And then you still have Kincaid and McBride to shop around.
Yeah, and I'm okay with that. I would honestly think, I personally think you potentially get Rashee Rice with the first and see how you go.
I agree.
If you can add Singletary, specifically Singletary for me or Eckler, I think I would rather lean on Singletary more than Austin Eckler. Because Singletary got that longer contract, and we've seen him in that Brian Daboll offense before.
Okay.
So I would definitely try and target Devin Singletary, MightyBouch, over everyone else. For me specifically.
Funnily enough, he's the one I have the least confidence in.
Yeah, and that's fine.
I think you guys are going to go running back in the draft.
Yeah, and I think we're going to go running back as well, and I think it will be more like a committee, no question. But I don't trust in. I think Brian Thomas plays a huge role in Chuba Hubbard. I actually think they could be. Brian Robinson, Chuba Hubbard. I think they can go another running back.
I think they could too, but I think the Giants. I don't know why. Maybe it's just my intuition. I just feel like they are the most likely to draft the running back high of these three names. The Commanders are definitely not taking running back. Would be Rob and Eckler.
And that all can change because if we do go out for a quarterback, I'm assuming that second round pick that we have is going with that pick to get up to the top three if we were to do that, hypothetically.
Right.
So, and if that does happen, I don't see us drafting a running back in the early rounds.
Along with Rice, I think we can throw out names like DJ Moore. I would say Tank Dell, but you already have Nico. Not that you can't do that. It just doesn't feel like ideal, I guess.
Yeah.
Honestly, I feel like it's a kind of limited list, Rice and DJ Moore. I don't know that there's another.
I mean, you could potentially go like the Waddles, the T's, if you really wanted to.
Okay.
You could also, we can also throw Jordan Addison, Jaden Reed in there. I
like Addison. I don't know about Reed though.
Yeah, I think it just depends on how MightyBouch feels about these players and how those owners feel about those players and what they actually want in return for these guys. So, we've kind of been saying it. I've been off Jackson Smith and Jigba. Like, would you want the 112 or Jackson Smith and Jigba? Can you get another wide
Jackson
receiver?
Smith and Jigba.
Yeah, like depending on how that Jackson Smith and Jigba owner feels, can you send the 112 for Jackson Smith and Jigba? Because we've seen that range of, inconsistencies in the community. We've seen him go as early as the 108 or 107, and a lot of people saying, well, he's not even worth a first round pick. So I think there's definitely ways you can navigate this, no question.
You could also pivot off McBride or Kincaid to improve your roster. And by the way, you don't do all these things, but a couple of these moves might get you in a better spot. McBride and Kincaid, obviously, everyone prefers to keep McBride, but whoever's going to get you the most return is the one that I'm looking to shop away. Tiger King isn't really a good pivot, to be honest. He's clearly not going to give you Justin Jefferson. Tiger King's not a good pivot, unfortunately. But who else has a tight end need? How about Team 7? Team 7 could be super interesting. Would you go McBride for London? Because I don't know that gets done, but I would definitely send that offer.
Yeah, 100%. I would do that. 100%.
That still gives you Kincaid. What about McBride for the 107?
It was a 107. Yeah,
I would do premium. I'd do that too.
Yep.
Another team that has a tight end need. Team 9, Sucka Ditka.
Sucka what?
I know, right? Would you go like a James Cook and... I don't like this pivot. Never mind.
Yeah, there's no one I feel comfortable getting in return there. Unless it's a quarterback. But I doubt that's going to happen.
Team 12 is probably leaving your league very soon. My goodness.
They got some picks in the first. A lot of picks in the second.
No, Team 12
that's a whole new team
to leave this league.
That's a whole new team, brother.
So you could obviously try and find ways to pivot off of McBride or Kincaid as well to improve your roster. You don't need both of them. In a non-tight end premium format, you're definitely not starting both. But the 112 as well, we just talked about this on stream. But some names that are valued around the 112 that you and I would feel good about adding to this roster. You talked about JSN. I think we can add Deebo Samuel to that list. Would you agree?
Yeah, I think the veteran routes, if I'm not mistaken, we kind of mentioned there.
I don't really want Diggs personally. I don't know about you. I think you might be more in on Diggs than me, but Pickens
I'm
for
okay.
Sure.
I'm okay with Diggs. George Pickens, Deebo Samuel. I think it gets a little bit shaky when you throw in these other names, which the Devontae Adams, I think I'm not necessarily sure if I want to be doing that, but if you feel confident in it, sure, but we wouldn't advise you to do that. Yeah.
All right, so if she sticks and picks at the 112, I do think there's two routes. It's either best running back or best wide receiver. That really is the two routes. So your Benson, Brooks of the world, or your at the 112 probably McConkey, Worthy, Mitchell range, wouldn't you say?
Yeah.
Franklin, if he goes to a good spot, we don't know if he is.
Would you do, out of curiosity, the 112 for the 203 and the 205?
Start 9, I don't know that I would.
I'm just thinking of maybe, can I pivot back and get 2 seconds? Do you get what I'm saying?
Sure. So you're saying scenario 3 is trade back, basically.
And get 2 seconds if you can. And that 203 and that 205 is coming from Team 12 Dynasty Rehab. He has the 104, the 109, the 111, the 110, and he could potentially have the 112. And that 203 is a good spot to get another wide receiver and another running back. That's the Bensons, the Xavier Legettes, the Roman Wilsons, the Ricky Pearsalls, the Jonathan Brooks. I feel like it opens up a lot more at both the wide receiver and running back position. That's the reason why I'm thinking about it.
Sure.
You can, I don't know, depending on who falls, right? It just really depends.
Oh, that makes sense. So clearly, we are telling you you're competing. You are competing. There's no doubt about that in our minds. and we talked about a bunch of different options that you could potentially improve your team with. Obviously, in the draft, you're going to get better, but you're a little bit limited. It is tough because I do think Team 1 is probably running the world right now. But hey, oh my god, that is so deep. That's what she said.
What? Are you okay? What's going on?
That's crazy. But doesn't mean we don't compete because injuries happen all the time. I don't really feel a need to pivot off Levis or Watson because I don't feel like their value is going to be worth the return at this point.
Agreed.
So I think that's it.
Yeah, MightyBouch. Obviously, use your fancy hotline. Talk to us. You know what's going on.
You've been down. You've been with us for a minute. I'm gonna send this hotline to her.
We'll help you out, and you just let us know how you go there. But good luck. This is a really good team. I love that Nico Collins trade for the 108. Personally, and I do like Will Levis and Deshaun Watson. Once again, just released a video about Deshaun Watson. I think he's very underrated in the community, and Will Levis, like Zach said, a good
wild
card, especially with all the weapons around them. So you have pieces around you that could potentially flourish. And even if the Chargers get a tackle in the first round, but then get another wide receiver in the second, Quentin Johnson still has some opportunity. I think there's some light at the end of the tunnel there, but it has to go right at the NFL draft. So stay tuned for that.
Yeah, look, I've been harsh on Quentin because I just think he has had every opportunity to succeed. I don't think there's any excuse for him not succeeding, to be honest. But what I will acknowledge is that they didn't use him the way that he was used in college. So I am curious to see if he's used in a different way with a new staff, or if they're like, we didn't draft you. Sorry, bud. We don't care.
Thank you for your service.
But all right, guys, we're going to move on to the next team. That is Gus. I think he's in the chat with us. Let us know if you are. But just if anybody wants to get their team reviewed, we'll quickly let you know that the process is very simple. All you need to do is, number 1, use the code LAND. Number 2, become a Mother Flocker member on the Flock Fantasy website. When you're signing up, we would advise you to click the instant access button. That way your roster is ready to be reviewed straight away, or it's eligible at least. Keep in mind, every user gets 1 roster review per year, so make sure you're choosing the roster review that you really want to be reviewed. And of course, in that hotline, that DM that we have with you guys, you can send us whatever roster you want that you choose not to get reviewed, and we'd be happy to give you some feedback on that there as well.
That is correct.
So again, got to be a Mother Flocker member, have to use the code LAND. You get a Dynasty team review, and everything you see on your screen here, including that one at the bottom, which we don't talk about enough. You get to support us. You get to support us. It's just myself and Badaki. That's it.
Us, man. There's no one else.
You're looking at the team here. This is the team for Dynasty Land and Fantasy Land. This is us. Everything. Admin. Okay. Content creation, brainstorming, editing, graphics, design, streams, scheduling. Everything you see. I mean, I'm technically our accountant in a way with what we're doing on TurboTax. So everything you see here is just us putting things together. So keep in mind that it's not something we talk about enough, but you're supporting us. You're supporting our vision. You're giving us a pathway to do this for hopefully the rest of our lives, or the rest of our working lives, at least.
After to be old man, back in the day when we first started.
Yeah. I'd like to be a grandfather on a stream. Well, I don't know.
We were on YouTube. Yeah. We were on YouTube back in the day. You younger don't know about that.
I'd like to pass it on to the next generation.
Shout out to Brooklyn.
But then at the same time, what if it's like LeBron James kids trying to, and we're not as good as LeBron James in our industry, obviously, but what if it's like LeBron James trying to get to the NBA? It's like, come on, don't put that pressure on him. Anyway.
Don't put that pressure on Bronny.
Anyway, that's
change his name.
Completely pointless at this point. But Gus is in the chat. We've got his sleeper ID here. By the way, we did see some people asking some questions in the chat. Unfortunately, today's stream is not a Q&A. We always do try our absolute best to answer questions in the chat. But on these type of streams, y'all know this, we say it all the time, we really do try and focus on just helping those people who financially supported us by becoming members. We want to give them their time, so hopefully y'all understand.
Completely agree. We appreciate you here. But
Gus.
We're gonna be breaking down Gus. 4 Gus's. Supporter, we appreciate you there, Gus. And let's break it down here. 14 team, 1 quarterback, full PPR, start 10.
Okay.
Finish 14 team. That's pretty big already. Finished 11th in the first season of the league. Have made a bunch of moves, mainly throughout the season. That means I finished 11th. That meant I finished 11th. The main ones are: you traded Bryce, Jerry Jeudy in the 3rd for Trevor in the 2nd. I'm okay with this trade. Getting Trevor in the 2nd here, really solidifying that, I'm assuming, quarterback position without the context of the whole thing. Feels like a really good move.
Yeah.
You traded Amon-Ra Warren for Addison and 2 firsts mid-season. I'm assuming those are 2 firsts. Yeah, I'm really interested to see where that's at, especially in a 1 quarterback. Traded Puka for London. After Cooper Kupp's first week back, I thought that was the outlier. I was wrong. Okay. Well, what's good about that is London's getting up there. He's close to Puka now.
Well,
it may not be as close, but I mean,
he's even recognizing it was the wrong move. But at the time, here's a tough thing with Puka. Yes, we loved him. We told everyone to draft him. But what he did, we didn't expect that to happen. You won't find a single video where we're telling you he's going to break rookie records. We loved him at his price. We were drafting him everywhere. But that was the difficult part. It was like something that never happened in the 100+ years of NFL football was happening. And the natural thought there is to say, well, let me get a first-round talent, Yeah. So it's not your fault. That was tough to digest.
Now I have the 104, the 111, the 204, 206, 7, 8. Okay. In reality, the 208. Okay, yes.
You push it back, yeah.
Yeah, you push it back. After the season has ended, I traded Michael Wilson and the 114 for the 111 and the 206.
Nice.
Yeah, I don't mind that trade getting up there. What's the 214? That's the 202, right? So you traded away Michael Wilson the 202 to get the 111 and the 204 technically.
Yeah.
Okay, that's fine. As well as trading Aaron Rodgers and the 210 for the 207.
1 quarterback league, so that makes sense.
Yeah,
I would have rather gone a little further up, but it's a 1 quarterback league. Aaron Rodgers is not a dead asset, but he's not. No one's building around Aaron.
Player for player, if you are comparing with other teams, I'm obviously not ready to compete. But with the draft capital, all my future first and extra 26 first, I feel like I should be able to make the moves to get me there. There's obviously a gap hole and a tight end in my team. Neither Chig, Dolches, or Auden are optimal starters, and I have the 104 where I expect Brock to be available. I just think I prefer Brian Thomas Jr. and then would look to trade for a tight end. I've had talks about Njoku for a second. Okay, that's interesting.
I like that idea.
Hope that covers it. Appreciate the concept.
He's in the chat, by the way, and he said Addison was a 26 and a 24 first. He went bonkers after the trade, though. Could be worse. I wonder what that 20. Where's that 24 first? Where did that end up? Is that the 111 then? So if we revisit that, Amon-Ra Warren for Addison, the 111 and a 26 first. It's a 14-man league, so depth is important. That's a tough one to digest.
That is a tough one.
But let's have a look at the team. I don't think there's a tight end premium.
How many starters again? Start
10. So that's probably, it's a 1 quarterback league.
Yeah, 1 quarterback.
I'm guessing 1 quarterback, 2 running backs. I'm guessing 3 wide receivers, 1 tight end. So that would be 6, 7, 3 flex. That's what I'm guessing.
So 7 wide receivers in total that he can start.
Let us know if that's right, Gus.
Or sorry, 6 wide receivers in total that you can start. I apologize. Let us know if that is right. All right. As he's doing that, let's break it down here at the quarterback position. Trevor Lawrence, you make that trade to get.
First things first. Keep Trade Cut has you ranked number 1 when you look at all assets.
Yeah. Which is great, and I think that's a lot to do with the draft capital potentially.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, with the draft capital. He said no signing premium start, 1 quarterback, 2 running backs.
Okay.
2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and 4 flex. Okay, just a different setup. Basically the same thing. Trevor Lawrence is your quarterback. I think that's good. You also have Gardner Minshew as the backup there. I think you kind of set and forget at that quarterback
position. What about Danny Dimes?
Position.
You don't believe in your boy Danny Dimes?
It looks like J.J. McCarthy's coming home.
You think so?
I think we genuinely like all 3 of the quarterbacks, and it doesn't matter who's there. We want to trade up for one.
Be careful now, man. Someone's going to tell you how the Giants franchise works if you don't. Hey, you don't be careful.
They clearly know more than me. But I don't know. Anyways, yes, Daniel Jones is there. I do believe that we're going to draft another quarterback, which will potentially make him irrelevant, unfortunately. If that is not the case, then you have Daniel Jones, which is really good as well. But Trevor Lawrence is your starting quarterback here. You set and forget. At the running back position, Breece Hall, Zach Charbonnet, Kendre Miller, and Chris Rodriguez. And in a 14-man league, I think this is okay.
That's pretty good, yeah.
Kendre Miller, who we both bought in multiple takes here that we do like, especially if Alvin Kamara is getting traded or whatever the case may be with him, Kendre Miller does step into a good opportunity going into the 2024 season. And Zach Charbonnet, I've been really off on Kenneth Walker because of my concerns of this new regime at Seattle here, new head coach, new offensive coordinator. Do they get Zach Charbonnet in the mix and take a lot of opportunities away from Kenneth Walker? Maybe it's a 60-40, maybe it's a 50-50. I think Zach Charbonnet sees the field a little bit more in 2024, personally.
I'm not convinced, but I would love it. I just think I love Zach Charbonnet, and I think he and Ken Walker are very different players. I think Zach Charbonnet could be a James Conner for an offense, a true starter, give him a bunch of volume. But I do think that Ken Walker is just a better talent. I think he's just a more talented player. So I just don't know. I have no idea. I don't have any confidence in either of those guys as far as how to really value them well. But
yeah,
the good news if you have Charbonnet is there is change. At the minimum, exactly. There is change.
And I think that's what scares me the most. Like when you come based on talent, Kenneth Walker, I think we can both agree we liked him more coming out.
I did pose the question that why wouldn't Charbonnet be an equal when the draft happened? He went to Seattle,
and I think maybe with this new offensive, I mean, how did Ryan Grum use running backs in that offense? He didn't. He had the wide receivers, right? Like Dylan Johnson didn't get a lot of work. There wasn't much. I mean, he did get work, but it wasn't crazy rotation, crazy opportunity.
Yeah, that part.
It's hard because if you look at college, it doesn't translate.
Even looking at his college days, not everything is going to translate to the NFL, but some of it will.
Yeah, exactly.
Wide receivers, pretty good room. London, Olave, Addison, JSN, Watson. Even, for a 12-man league, that would look pretty good. For a 14-man league, that looks very good. In fact, that might be... Yeah, I mean, you look at... Obviously, some people have some stars too, but you're right up there with one of the best wide receiver rooms in your league, with it being a 14-man. Of course, you don't have a Jefferson, a CD, or Chase, but you've got, some very good starters. Like, Team 14 has Amon-Ra Puka. Whoa! His wide receiver 3 is Curtis Samuel. Do you know what I mean? So, you've got some really good starters and some depth and some upside in, like, a JSN and a Watson. I like that. He already talks about tight end, how, things aren't looking great right now. But a lot of draft picks. A lot of ways that we can improve this team.
No question.
First things first, rest in peace, Uncle Phil. But this team is actually pretty good for a 14-man league.
Yeah, it actually is good. And I think it's because of that wide receiver room. Once again, London, Olave, Addison, Smith and Jigba, Watson, 5 wide receivers out of the 6 you could potentially start. And you have the 104 here, which can either go wide receiver or tight end, like you kind of mentioned. What's a 14-man league? A team could potentially be struggling at the quarterback.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think 14-man, you could see Caleb Williams and Jaden Daniels all off the board before the 111. But I actually think that I love Trevor Lawrence. I'm team Trevor Lawrence, but I think at the 111, if Daniels is there, I actually would be very tempted with this team in a 14-teamer.
Can I trade Trevor Lawrence away to team 2? Well, he has Justin Fields, Aaron Rodgers. Very interesting.
You just traded him, Aaron Rodgers, anyway.
Yeah. Anyways. All right, the 104.
We can look at that as an option later on, but probably.
Yeah. We'll have a look here. 104, 111, 204, or 204, 206, 7, and 8.
And keeping in mind when we think about that, it's +2 on all those, really. So 206, 208, 209, 210, essentially. But the first round picks stand as is in a one quarterback format. He talked about it, Brock Bowers or Brian Thomas Jr. I do think landing spots, the draft will answer that question for you. If Bowers is a Charger and Brian goes to Pittsburgh, for example, I mean, that's a pretty easy answer to go out and go Brock Bowers. And it would be ignorant for anyone to sit here and say, even us, that landing spots don't matter at all, because they do. Right? Like, look at what Puka Nacua did last year. Look at what JSN was stuck with, right? So landing spots clearly are important. But yeah, I think that will be answered for you in the NFL draft. At the 111, what would you consider doing with this team? Because we have talked about in the past pivoting off the 111. I don't think we really need to address wide receiver all that much on this team. But you can start
6.
5. 6, you're right.
Yeah, you can start 6 wide receivers. You have 5 you can start currently with confidence.
We could add some wide receivers here.
You could add a wide receiver, or at the 111, I think this is where you can see a running back. Mm-hmm. Now we've seen, it all depends on the landing spot. We've seen Trey Benson go as early as 108 or as late as the 111, or in 12, depending on the landing spot. Maybe that's Jonathan Brooks. If not, one of those running backs fall to you. Wide receiver position definitely is intriguing, or quarterback.
That's what I was gonna say. Brooks, Benson, wide receiver, or like a Daniels, Caleb.
Like if Daniels is off the board, like if everyone is still, are you taking Daniels over Caleb in a one quarterback?
No, but I am always posing the question of like why shouldn't we consider it?
Sure.
Same reason I was saying A-Rich over Bryson one quarterback last year.
Yeah, and I wonder how these teams are in the second half of the draft here.
What is that guy at team 2? What is his picks? Because
he has 103,
he's got the 201, so he's not going to go quarterback at the 103, so you could take a quarterback ahead of him. Team 4 is pretty weak. They got no picks in the first. Team 8, no picks in the first. Team 9, picks in the first, but after you.
I actually think a quarterback could fall to you. Team 8 is probably the most
Team 13
intriguing.
They got Dak, though. They don't need that.
Yeah, I mean, they don't, but if they want to go with the rushing upside, they also just got Bryce Young, because he traded Bryce Young, remember? I actually think a quarterback could potentially fall to you here, looking at this. I mean, Team 5, who has the 105, the 107, the 109, he has Josh Allen. I don't think he's taking a quarterback.
I think the reason you could consider quarterback at the 111 is because if there is none, you are setting the precedent for people to get their quarterbacks. Does that make sense? So like, if you go throughout the entire draft and the 111 is there and all the quarterbacks are available to you, no one's taken them yet. Clearly, we looked at people who have late firsts and early seconds that need quarterback. You are setting the precedent. If you want a quarterback, you got to get them now. And I love Trevor Lawrence. He's one of my favorite quarterback 2s in Dynasty SuperFlex leagues. But in a one quarterback league, 14-man, like those top end quarterbacks, your Josh Allens of the world, those are real huge difference makers in a format like this. So if I can get my hand on a Daniels or a Caleb here, and I can set the market, and then I'm automatically helping these picks later. The 204, the 206, the 207, the 208. I'm going to start telling people, you want your quarterbacks, you're going to have to get them right here, right now.
Right now.
And that's going to push the running backs, wide receivers down the board with my second rounder. So I think that's an option. We did talk about running back and wide receiver as an option here. It's the same running backs. Well, in a one quarterback league, I don't think Benson or Brooks is actually there. I don't think they'll be there.
I think it just depends on the team fit and how these guys are perceiving them. I think it also really depends on the wide receivers. Where's Mitchell going? Xavier Worthy, Lamar Conklin, all those landing spots really matter.
I think in a one quarterback though, those guys aren't going to be available either. Those names that we just talked about. I think at the 111, in my rankings, Worthy, Mitchell, Franklin, McConkey, all gone. No longer available. You're starting to look at other names there. Like, well, for me, it would be a McMillan. It would be a Leggett, a Polk, a...
Yeah, for me, it would be Burton. Burton, Xavier Leggett.
You know, Pearsall.
Yep.
Those are the kind of names there. So when, like I said, I don't think Brooks and Benson are there. Maybe they are. Right. But if Brooks and Benson aren't there, if the tier of Worthy, Mitchell, and Franklin and McConkey aren't there, it's like, why wouldn't we go Daniels and Caleb? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. I would do that, Gus. Like, that's what intrigues me about this. Because I'm reading, it says, does that mean you trade Lawrence to, say, Team 2? I would, but what can I get in return from Team 2 in a one quarterback? And here, like, can that be... Am I doing Dawkins and Kincaid in a one quarterback?
I'd be shocked if someone wouldn't prefer Kincaid.
Yeah.
But that's actually... That would fix your problem pretty instantly.
Yeah. The thing is that also, you really have to guarantee that you're at least getting Caleb or Daniels.
Yes, exactly. I mean, have to know that beforehand.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I'm not saying... Would you have May over Trevor Lawrence off the rip? Doesn't matter where he lands.
Say again, sorry.
Would you have Drake May ahead of Trevor Lawrence from jump? Doesn't matter where he goes to.
No.
Commanders, Patriots.
It does matter where he goes. Okay. In a one quarterback format, I would have Daniels over him off the rip and Caleb.
You'll have but I'm saying let's just say he does this trade, and Jaden Daniels and Caleb Williams are off the board, but Drake May goes to a team. Which team does that have to be for you to be okay to put over Trevor Lawrence? Essentially, what I'm asking. What about your Commanders? Would that change? Would that still would you still want Trevor Lawrence?
I think still in a one quarterback league, I would go Daniels though. You're saying Daniels and Caleb aren't available at all?
I'm saying, yeah, if he were to do this trade without knowing who's guaranteed going to be there, and he's okay taking any three of the quarterbacks, where does Drake May have to go for you to say, you know what, I lucked out here?
I don't know. I mean, we can't. I honestly think that the draft, there will be so many trades that haven't happened yet. It's almost pointless, to try and figure out where exactly. But Denver doesn't. Denver is interesting because you have Sean Payton, so I don't want to underestimate that. Look, I can't answer the question yet. I don't know how to answer it yet. Do you know what I mean?
Sure.
What I would say though is if you do get May, I don't think I'm trading away Trevor straight away though. I think it needs to be Caleb or Daniels.
Right. Okay. So that's what I was going to reference. I was like, would you be okay just trading away Trevor and knowing you're just getting Daniels regardless?
Has to be at least Daniels because I think his rushing floor gives me enough to feel confident starting him. When you think about Lamar Jackson in his rookie season, he wasn't the star yet, right? He started second half of those games, but he was a good starter for fantasy. Think about Kyler in his first year. Trying to think of these other rushing names. Anthony Richardson, if he was healthy, what could he have done? We know it could have been through the roof. So just that rushing floor gives you a lot more safety in those formats. Whereas with quarterback, you can go the Stroud, the Herbert route, or it could go the Zach Wilson. It could go the Bryce Young route, as a rookie. So that's tough. What's up, Steven? Steven says, I just re-upped on Flock. Can't wait for my turn. Hey, we love to see it, my man. Put your team, whichever team you want this year, reviewed in the channel, and we are hyped to review your team, brother. We appreciate you. Stephen Day, one of the oldest OGs.
Triple OG. We appreciate you, Stephen. Thank you so much, brother.
This is how Gus thinks the top 10 will go. Marvin, Neighbors, Rome, Brock, Brian, Adonai, Ladd, Caleb, Worthy, Benson, Brooks. So he does believe that Daniels will be available. And if those names are off the board, he said Worthy was gone. Yeah, he said Adonai was gone. So really, Daniels is absolutely in play here.
Yeah.
Let's be honest. At the 111, it is a true BPA. It is a true BPA.
Yeah. So you're saying Team 108 is going to be taking Caleb in this scenario, which is Dak Prescott, Bryce Young.
Yeah.
Team 13, which makes sense.
But the reason I'm really interested in taking a Daniels here is because, again, you're telling the people who need quarterback, go out and get your quarterbacks. And then we know the depth of this class. So I know at the 204, which is actually the 206, that would be my 18th ranked player. So for me, we're looking at a lot of these names that we talked. Your Legettes, your Polks, your Romans, your Burtons, your Pearsalls. Not saying all these will be available. Your Corleys, your Wrights, your Lloyds.
I would say Jatavion Sanders could be in play, one of those picks, depending on the landing spot.
Is this tight end premium?
For me personally, no, but I think the tight end position is pretty weak for him.
Sure.
If you can use maybe that 208, if he does fall, use that very last pick to get a Sanders, and let's say he goes, I don't know where he would go, but
yeah. And I would say like these picks, it's the same thing, but maybe we can add a couple names as you go down the board. Maybe Coleman, he's probably off the board in your league, but Walker, your Horrendos, your Corums, your Irvings, your Estimes, your Allens. You have a great chance to really round out your roster here with these picks.
Yeah.
So let's just play the stick and pick scenario. So we get Brock Bowers, we get Jaden Daniels. Let's also say that we end up with Pearsall, Sanders. Let's say Corum, and I don't know, Estime. I don't know. So that would be a great haul for your team, and you would answer most of your needs as well as going best player available and maximizing picks. So at quarterback, you'd be looking at Jaden Daniels, Trevor Lawrence. And maybe you can move Trevor if you feel like you need to. At running back, you got Breece Hall, Zach Charbonnet, as well as Blake Corum, Audric Estime. At wide receiver, you have Drake London, Chris Olave, Jordan Addison, Jackson Smith-Njigba, Christian Watson, and then you're also adding Ricky Pearsall to go out and compete for that 6th flex spot. At tight end, we've now got Jatavion Sanders and the rest of the group. So you really are... Brock Bowers, Jatavion Sanders, and the rest of the group. So you really are building out a complete team, but you're not forcing either any of these picks either. You're going best player available at every single pick. So I really, really like the way that sounds.
I don't mind that. I don't mind that one whatsoever, and I think that's a good move there for your team.
What do these other teams that don't have quarterbacks have at tight end?
Well,
you couldn't get a Mark Andrews, could you? Let's just throw that out there as like an offer in case that isn't enticing to any of these teams. But who else needs quarterback?
It's really just team 13. I guess people don't really need quarterback, right? But it's if you look at the weakest room, it's team 13, and then team 4. Sorry, team 2.
Yeah. Team 2
right.
With Kincaid.
Team 13.
So if you know you're going to get a quarterback, you could even pursue this after the draft. I'll put that in there. You could look at trading Trevor for a tight end that you like, but I don't really love the route of not going picks here. I don't know where you stand. The more I'm looking at it, I don't really think... This is a
14-man league.
Yeah.
I think the depth here is pretty important.
Yeah.
So yes, like getting every best player available at the wide receiver or running back position in that second round is crucial.
I'll also say there's no wide receiver that I feel like I should really pivot off of, to be honest with you. Like, I don't want to pivot down from any of these names in a 14-man. These are all guys that I really have no interest in moving.
Yeah, I would agree. I mean, especially in a 14-1 quarterback, I'm keeping Jordan Addison. I'm keeping Jackson Smith and Jigba. I'm keeping Christian Watson. I know at least I've been big advocates of pivoting off of Olave, pivoting off of Addison. I'm panicking on Jackson Smith and Jigba, but in this format, you have to keep some of these guys because these guys are valuable for you. Like, and they still have the upside than some of these other players here. So I would agree. I think this is best case scenario is to stick and pick. I think for me, I would be willing to take the chance with trading Trevor Lawrence to see the best thing that I can get and be okay with any of those three quarterbacks that fall to me at the 111. That's what I would say is the difference for me.
I don't think I would. It would have to be Daniels or Caleb.
Yeah, and I'm okay with doing it with Drake May because I think Drake May falls into perfect. Well, if I'm predicting it, if I'm predicting,
who could though? No one could.
Yeah, I know. I know I couldn't, but I think maybe those conversations can change if the landing spots are favorable. Yeah. I think the least favorable landing spot is probably, I would say the Patriots due to the lack of weapons. And same thing with the Denver Broncos if a team moves up. And you can even say the Giants, right? Of lack of weapons. So it just depends on how he feels about those landing spots.
I think one thing you could do if you want to go the Brian Thomas route is, I guess, like, get a cheaper tight end. If you don't want to go Brock Bowers, let's say you do go Brian Thomas at the 104. Let's say he does land, I don't know, he goes to the Jags. I mean, that's a really exciting landing spot in my opinion. You know, from the 204 to the 208, what sort of tight end can we obtain? I think Jake Ferguson came to mind because I saw him on a team that had multiple tight ends. He talked about David Njoku as an option. I obviously prefer David Njoku.
I would do that trade if that's still available for one of those random seconds.
Yeah.
Or a 24-second.
He said has had talks about Njoku for a second. In a 14-man league, a guy like Njoku has more valuable than a 12-man.
What's
Kittle
that
is
pick?
There too. That's interesting.
What's that pick specifically, Gus, out of curiosity? Assuming the
Evan
highest
Ingram,
one.
I think you would also do.
Yeah, I would do Evan Ingram.
We would both be very interested in Evan Ingram.
No question. I mean, I don't mind taking a chance on like a Luke Musgrave. I don't mind taking a chance on like a Dalton Kincaid or Cole Kmet. I know a lot of people are scared of Cole Kmet.
I don't want any
Kmet. Who else? I think that's about it. Those are the guys that I would be interested in. Pat Frymuth is an interesting player.
Yeah, but I wouldn't pay a second for those
yeah,
names.
Exactly. I wouldn't pay a second, but if you're telling me that, hey, Pat Frymuth, new offensive coordinator, and Arthur Smith, new quarterbacks, he played a huge part. Deontay Johnson's now gone. I mean, he could be a huge part of that offense there.
Yeah,
but it's hard to spin the narrative. It's hard to spin the narrative with Arthur Smith there because of Kyle Pitts, right? So, I think the talent is there for Pat Frymuth. Just the situation kind of feels like a worst case scenario.
I am very curious to see what pick that was offered for David Njoku. He says we haven't included anything. Guy with Njoku said he'd do it for a second. Thing is, I don't want to lock myself into either Brock or Brian before the real draft. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. But obviously, once the draft happens, you can explore these options: your Fergusons, your Njokus, your Ingrams, for a second round pick. What pick is that exactly? Negotiate with the owner. Obviously, you want to get the best value, right?
Yeah.
But absolutely, I think that's in play. So you're not locked into Brock. If Brian goes to a place you love and Brock's on the Saints or whatever, you know, and you just don't like that for whatever reason, then you can look at.
I was going to say, you got to prepare yourself. You got to prepare yourself for both of those guys going to two landing spots you don't like Brock Bowers to the Saints. That's really going to change everything. And then Brian Thomas to the Steelers. How much are you going to love it? Which one do you lean more towards?
It's funny because there are certain wide receivers I actually really like in Pittsburgh, like Pearsall, McConkey, like these, you know, true route runners to kind of take over the Deontay role. And there's other guys that just hate paired along with Pickens, like a Brian Thomas, like a Coleman, you know.
I like the landing spots, and I think for me, the way I envision it is if Brian Thomas gets traded or gets picked by the Steelers, I think he is what George Pickens couldn't be for the Steelers.
Like if they're drafting, understand why they would make that pick. It makes no sense to me.
I just think if they're drafting someone with, I guess, similar traits, who I think is a little bit more refined than Brian Thomas, than George Pickens, then that means they like him better than George. That's how I'm envisioning it.
I think Brian isn't more refined than Pickens at this point. I think Pickens is more refined after being in the NFL a couple of years, but I think his ceiling is higher. I think he's a better athlete. I just don't know. I don't understand that landing spot, but yeah. It literally means nothing to argue over it right now because they haven't even made the pick. Gus says, I think 206, 207, 208 would get it done. Honestly, his team is in dire need of picks. So that's a great option for you. But, typically we talk about if you trade these picks, look at this and that. I don't know, dude. Like, I don't really feel a huge need to explore that for this team. I really think I'd be going, again, and I think it's because of the format, deeper rosters, 14-man league. I just don't know that I really would, explore that route. Would you? I don't think I would. I mean, even those 26 firsts, those are staying right where they are.
Yeah, look, I think.
Where's rather Kirk Cousins, by the way?
Second round pick, it's not. I think it just depends on the players I could potentially get. Like in a second round pick in a team like this, I know you like Deontay Johnson. Would you do Deontay Johnson for one of those picks? I'm just throwing out conversations.
No, that's a good one.
Would you do like Christian Kirk or I'm just thinking of wide receivers in the second round. Would you do a Terry? Would you do a Jahan Dotson? Would you do just adding people, adding quote unquote guys that we still believe in, maybe have proven upside or hidden potential that could potentially that are going into better situations going into this year, right? So that's what I'm throwing out now.
No, I don't mind that at all. Deontay Johnson was one of those names. Who else were you?
I said Terry, Jahan Dotson, Christian Kirk.
Oh, I don't like Dotson there, but Kirk.
That's fine. That's fine. And for any of those seconds, mind you, would you do it for a veteran wide receiver? Would you do it like what about Calvin Ridley?
Yeah, I like that as because now Calvin becomes your sixth option in a 14-man league.
Yeah, so I think those are different ways that you can pivot off of those second round picks if you really wanted to.
Yeah, you can definitely move in and out of the draft for picks.
Yeah, so it just depends on how you want to navigate. Would you rather get these younger players, or do you still believe in some of these names that we've mentioned? Deontay, Terry, Kirk, Calvin.
I wouldn't do it for any vet though. Like I wouldn't do it for Keenan.
A Godwin. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It depends on who you.
Yeah, no, I agree. I'm just giving him the information like in my head. I guess I wouldn't do it for Downs.
Can you package 2 seconds to get? I mean, I doubt you can do this, but can you package 2 seconds to get a Rice? 2 seconds to get, or a second to get a Jaden Reed? Can you get 2 seconds to get a Zay Flowers? I don't know.
That's probably too high, but yeah, it's worth exploring.
It's worth exploring to see how you can maybe take advantage of some of these.
I would even say Pickens. Y'all know I love me some Pickens.
Yeah. There you go.
So yeah, I think those are all options, but I wouldn't be like. Certainly, we're not trying to trade down from the 104. If anything, on this team, I would want to know how much does it cost to get to the 103. Guarantee me in a Dunze. That's the other move. Trade up to the 103. Or even the 102 or the 101. Like, how much is that going to cost in this type of format? Obviously, the higher you go, probably more. But what do I have to give to make sure I get an Adunze? To make sure I get a Neighbors? 103 is a team with Fields in his quarterback room. So let's look at those teams then. The 103. Well, I think it goes without saying that if I can send Trevor Lawrence plus something for the 103, I'm doing that in an absolute heartbeat. I mean, what pick? I mean, would Trevor Lawrence in the 111, Badaki? That's an but then you have a problem at quarterback. So no, you can't do that. Exactly. But Trevor Lawrence and like a bunch of seconds, even like What do we have again? The 204, the 208. What would the keep trade cut calculator say on that? Trevor Lawrence, 204, 208, and we wanted the 103. Is that right?
Yeah.
I think I would pay that. What about you?
Yeah, I'll be okay with that.
Then you're getting...
I'll be okay with that.
Rome Odunze, and you can get Brock Bowers, or you can get Rome Odunze and Brian Thomas if you wanted. I think what's even more enticing to me is getting up to the 102 and guaranteeing Neighbors. Who has the 102?
The 102 is Team 3.
You can't structure that with Trevor, unfortunately. And in fact, there's no reason for this guy to make a trade with you anyway. His team is pretty good.
Maybe he could do something with Team 8. What does Team 8 have? Sorry, the 108. He just has the 108.
Who has the 101? That's the last shout. Team 10, rather Kirk's cousin. I wonder if we could offer like the 104 plus. What's the plus we would add there? I mean, any amount of second round picks, to be honest with you, like the 204, 206, 208. I think we would send all of those for the 101. Although it is a 14-man, so we got to be careful. But we said the 104, 204, 206, was it? For the 101, I think you and I would do that. But Keep Trade Cut says you can keep... Okay, that's ridiculous. Come on, Keep Trade Cut. Look, I don't think this is possible, but if Keep Trade Cut says it's possible, the 104 and the 204, there's no way. How do people use this calculator?
There's no way. Yeah, I mean...
Like... That's just ridiculous. I mean, maybe I'm about to put my foot in my mouth, but what would our calculator say on that? A 14-man, one quarterback. What's his lineup again?
Starts 10.
One quarterback, two running backs, two wide receivers, one tight end, four flex. Right? Maybe I'm literally about to make myself look like such an idiot. But was an early second. No, I'm not. See, this makes sense. Who the hell would do that? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Of course you're robbing them. It makes absolutely no sense. They just do not put a premium on premium players. It makes no sense. But obviously, like we mentioned, if you can somehow get to the 101 or the 103, feel free to like venture out with those trades. But that's a lot of options you got there, to be honest. We talked about Brock or Brian Thomas. We talked about Daniels or Caleb. We talked about at the 204 to the 208 getting BPA at running back, wide receiver. We talked about options to get a tight end, the elite guys and also the middle of the pack guys. That would be very good options in a 14-teamer. We talked about moving some of those seconds for veterans, multiple seconds for even better players. We talked about trading up to the 103, the 102, or the 101 as well. Now, of course, feel free to send us the deals that are on the table. We'd be happy to give some feedback. But let us know if you have any questions that we didn't answer. We want to make sure that we always answer every question that you guys have. But just note, you're in a great place. I really don't think you can go wrong with the next couple of months with your team. You're in a very good spot, great assets, great pillars. By the way, if anyone is watching, do us a favor, smash that like button. Our like goal today was 50. We're about halfway there, so we didn't reach our like goal. But if everyone hits the like button right now, we can get pretty damn close. But Gus, tell us, what questions didn't we answer? We want to make sure we answer those. Wyatt says, got to keep trade cut with a grain of salt. I absolutely agree. Gus says, appreciate the walkthrough. It's late in Denmark, so bed is calling. Denmark.
Denmark, huh?
Damn, son.
Damn, son. That's a beautiful place. I heard you got beautiful women over there.
All I will say is that everyone that I know from Denmark does not want to leave Denmark.
And everyone that I know from Denmark are chiseled from the gods, man or woman.
Yes. Also, Kevin Magnussen is from Denmark.
Shout out to Kevin Magnussen.
So big shout out to K-Mag.
He's a good looking guy.
Yeah, good looking dude. Good looking.
He's not ugly. He got that nice hair on him.
Mm-hmm. That sounds weird.
He said, "Trust me." What am I trusting? Am I trusting you with chisel from the gods or what?
He's just saying the community of Denmark.
Oh yeah.
By the way, guys, if you're watching tonight's stream and you're thinking, "Damn, it would be awesome if they could do this for my team," well, hey, guess what? It is possible. All you need to do is become a Mother Flocker member with the promo code LAND. I just put a direct link in the chat. When you do decide to support the show, you get a Dynasty team review, you get our rookie report, our rankings, unlimited access to the trade calculator that actually functions properly. You get unlimited access to all of our Discord channels, all the articles, databases on the site. So again, if you want your team reviewed, very, very simple. All you got to do is sign up with the code LAND to be a Mother Flocker member. Direct link I just put in the chat. It's also in the description if you're watching this later. But Gus, let us know, were there any final questions? Otherwise, we're going to log off for the day. I'm going to go have some lunch with my wife's family because it is Good Friday here. And then I'm going to go hang out with my friends tonight, and Padaki's not going to join us. He doesn't want to join us.
Yeah, I mean, you guys... Yeah, that's all I'm saying. Selfish people.
That's all he's saying.
Selfish.
He says, we're good, gents. Have a good day. All right. Appreciate you, man. We'll see you guys soon. All love. Have a good weekend. Happy Easter. Be with your family. All that. All that nonsense. All right.
All that stuff. Love.